All right, welcome back to another episode of Off the Bench, the best sports podcast show that's going on right now. So thank you for joining us, show creators, myself, Kevin Cornegay. We have Javon Tavares, Mr. Michigan Wolverine and Pittsburgh Steeler. And then we have Sean Dustin, Mr. Dallas Cowboy, and all things LeBron James. Fellas, how you guys doing tonight?
Bless.
Wonderful. Doing absolutely wonderful on this beautiful Thursday evening, ready to get it in.
We have a ton to cover. Let's jump right into it. We're going to start with the number one sport in America, the NFL. Now, let's lay a little bit of groundwork. Thursday night in the great state of Alabama. If you are geographically challenged, Alabama is down in the south, neighboring states, Mississippi and Georgia. But the president of the United States, Donald Trump, was there for a rally. Now, during the rally, he made statements about the NFL and about the protest, if you're living under a rock, but the protest that's currently going on, started by Colin Kaepernick last season, who is still unemployed. Trump made remarks, statements, calling Colin Kaepernick a son of a bitch, and also referred to other players who have joined in on the protest as such. Donald Trump challenged the NFL, challenged Roger Goodell to sit players and fire players who participated in the protest. Naturally, many of the African-American players, 72% of the players in the NFL are African-American, including a lot of their white counterparts, participated in some form of protest. Now, all 32 teams participated, if you will. Some teams were more aggressive with their protests. Some teams were less aggressive, so on and so forth. So I want to start with Sean Dustin. I kind of want you take the floor, go wherever you want to go with it. What was your reaction to the comments by Donald Trump? What was your reaction to the protest that we saw on Sunday? And you follow very closely the Dallas Cowboys. So I also want you to give us some insight on what you saw from Jerry Jones and the rest of the Cowboys.
To say it very shortly, I was hot. I was livid. When I heard Donald Trump call for players to be fired, for people to be called sons of bitches, when less than a month before in Charlottesville, you had people leading rallies, pro-white rallies with Nazi flags, Confederate flags. There was violence, and his commentary was that there's very fine people on both sides of this, and to call people that are peacefully protesting and exercising rights that Americans died for, servicemen and women died for, to call them sons of bitches. When you have to bleep out something that a president is saying, first and foremost, you know you have a problem. When you're making disparaging remarks about people exercising rights that are very American, that these are things that we fought for, to be able to protest peacefully, to have sit-ins, to have boycotts, to have labor strikes, to do things that say, you know what, we have a problem, our voices need to be heard. However, we're not going to take bayonets and stab people like those that fought in revolutionary wars. When people said, hey, we don't like your system, we don't like your monarchy, we don't like your taxes, and we're willing to shed blood to make that very clear. But yet now we go through forming a democracy that's by the people, for the people, the people voted for these rights. Black men, that a league is 72% African American, as you clearly stated, and we fought in every war: Civil War, World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam War, for these very rights that didn't even exist stateside. And then to be called sons of bitches to peacefully protest when they're not doing anything against the law. They're doing things within the realms of the democracy that we've created was downright despicable. It was deplorable that a human being, let alone the president of the United States, could spew that kind of negativity and make a protest that is about social injustice, about disparaging the flag or anti-American, when the person, Colin Kaepernick, who set it all off, made it very clear that it had nothing to do with that he respects those people, that he has people in his family that are servicemen and women. Now, when it gets to the Dallas Cowboys, I was disappointed. I was let down. I understand that the overwhelming sentiment, and I did think it was a unified gesture, that all the players and coaches and owner Jerry Jones interlocked arms and took a knee before the national anthem. And that's where I take exception. I know that Jerry Jones has lined the pockets of Donald Trump. I know that he's contributed $1 million to his inaugural campaign. So I know that you're friends with Donald Trump. I know that you have very strong feelings by yourself about your player standing during the national anthem. And you know what? You got exactly what you wanted. Every player standing during the national anthem. That's not what this protest was about. This is not a time that we need to be compromising on social issues that have plagued this nation for hundreds of years and continue to do that. Things that were happening in the 60s are happening right now. Even worse, on camera, blatant, and going out on paid administrative leave. I take exception, although I like that there was a unified front and doing something to show that there is unity against social injustice. But the whole point of kneeling during the national anthem, is that I'm not going to stand during an anthem when these things are happening in our country and we're acting all patriotic as if all of these things that are being said in words exist when they actually don't. So to take a soft stance and a compromise to say we'll kneel before the anthem, but then when the anthem comes on, everybody's standing, I was particularly bothered with. This is America's team. We need to be doing what's right for America and not just what appeases these owners, this old money, this establishment that are hand in hand and are friends with Donald Trump. Nobody had a problem. None of these coaches, none of these owners had a problem with disparaging remarks being made about their players. It wasn't a problem until they were being told what to do with their product. And rich people don't like being told what to do with their product. People of power don't like being pushed around. I'm a billionaire too. Don't tell me what I have to do with my players or what I'm going to do. And it didn't become a problem until then. Until then. Nobody was all unified. Coaches and owners weren't unified until owners got upset that the president was coming down on their product and possibly affecting their paper, possibly affecting their money and their revenue stream by him telling people to boycott. So that's my feelings on the matter. I was overall, I left frustrated. I left disappointed.
Javon, same question to you after the remarks of the president and then what you saw on Sunday. I just want to get a reaction from you there. And then I want you to specifically talk about, because the Steelers had one of the more interesting situations occur when one of their players steps outside of the locker room to pay homage to the national anthem, while the rest of his teammates were in the locker room. And then the day after, Ben Roethlisberger made some comments about how he was feeling. So take it away, Javon. Give us your thoughts on that.
So it was just maybe a month ago, 3 weeks ago, where the country was unified due to the natural disaster, Hurricane Harvey, Hurricane Irma, Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, as well as the earthquake in Mexico. So I felt that the country was making some headway because of all the overwhelming support that was being shown for our brothers and sisters in those states, as well as the unofficial state of Puerto Rico, and as well as our neighbors to the south in Mexico. You really got a chance to see how humans can really galvanize and come together and support those that are in pain and those that are suffering. And then Donald Trump makes his comment about the NFL players and referred to them as SOBs. I completely agree with Sean there when he says that anytime your president is using that type of language on the record, that should tell you everything you need to know. I agree with Sean when he says that it wasn't that big a deal to the owners until the president directly took a shot at the NFL and began telling them how to run their business. It wasn't a problem. No one had hired Colin Kaepernick. No one had even shown interest in bringing Kaepernick in. And the couple clubs that did show interest, for whatever reason, it didn't work out. So I'm going to leave you with this, America. The America that we grew up in, the America that we love, the America that has consistently, since its beginning, treated minorities like second-class citizens. We won't even go back and talk about slavery. We won't even go back and talk about how Native Americans were done wrong and had their land jacked. We won't even talk about that. But we'll talk about the selfishness that rings true every time there's a situation where you need to step outside of yourself and look from the perspective of another race that's not yours. You're talking about selfishness. You're talking about selfishness from the owners, the NFL owners. As long as their bottom line wasn't being affected, and as long as the president wasn't saying, hey, people don't need to show up, or people need to leave the stadium if people don't stand up for the national anthem. The owners didn't care about, and I'm making a blanket statement. I'm not going to say that all the owners didn't care, but the sentiment and how the optics of it, how it looked to us, because they didn't hire Colin Kaepernick, it looked like he was locked out. So now all of a sudden, Donald Trump makes his comments, which aren't surprising. He's been making comments like this for a long time. This shouldn't surprise anyone. It didn't surprise me in the least. It didn't. But now all of a sudden, the owners want to come out arm in arm with their players. Now some of them want to, take a knee to protest. Now they want to lock arm in arm. Man, they weren't locking arm in arm for inequality and injustice. They were locking arm in arm with their players because their bottom line was being affected. And if you understand that 72% of the league is African American, you cannot effectively say, hey, we're going to let Donald Trump take shots at you guys and not defend you. Because now you run the risk of having these players say, listen, we're not going to play at all. And you're effectively out of business. So this was a move by the owners to protect their bottom line, to protect their business interests. So my theme is selfishness. Now, granted, you run a business, you own a business. It's your responsibility to make sure that that business runs and is as successful as possible. But again, there wasn't a unified front or theme until their bottom line was affected and the president started telling them how to run their business. It's the same thing with these fans out there and with these individuals that say it's completely disrespectful to the flag to kneel. You guys continue to miss the point. You continue to miss the point. And I cannot sit here and act like you missing the point is okay, because it's not. It is absolutely selfish of you to say it's disrespectful to the flag. It's disrespectful to the servicemen of this country, when Colin Kaepernick has said, and it's been stated time and time again, that it was never about disrespect for the flag. It was never about disrespect for the country or the national anthem. It's a protest. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was a serviceman that gave Colin Kaepernick the idea to kneel, because he was just sitting on the bench before that. So he gave him the idea to kneel. So when a man comes out and says that I am not doing this to disrespect the country, I am doing this to bring attention to social injustice and social inequality, and then you have people deflecting, making it about something that it's really not, which now the attention is now gravitated to the flag and the anthem. It is insensitive and it is selfish on your behalf. You're worried about a damn flag and you're worried about a national anthem, and black people and minority in this country have been suffering for hundreds of years. But yet you cannot see the other side of this equation. You're thinking about a flag. I know some people in the inner city that's not going to eat tonight. I know some people that are making a decision right now. Either I'm going to eat and feed my family and take it from somebody else, or I'm not going to eat at all, because they don't have the same opportunities that you've had. There are some people right now in their car. They see a police officer behind them right now as we speak. If you are an African-American person or a person of color, you could be nervous right now, not knowing if this is going to be your last night on this planet. You're hoping that that policeman doesn't pull you over. Maybe you're in an area where there aren't many people there. And if you get pulled over, you're thinking about what you're going to do to cooperate and the things that you want to say and the things that you're not going to say so that you can make it out alive. That is a problem. And that is what Colin Kaepernick was standing for. But we continue to worry about a flag. Ironic how these same people aren't mentioning the flag burning that used to happen during Vietnam. Flags were being burnt. Are we forgetting that? And so, and I know I took us to a different direction, and I'll get back to the Steelers in a minute, but I felt it appropriate to mention that because the insensitivity that we have shown as Americans is downright awful. And I can sit here and tell you right now, if our Native American brothers and sisters have a plight and they want to protest for something, guess what? I'm not going to be insensitive to that. As an American, I'm going to try to understand their plight and I'm going to stand with them. If our Asian brothers and sisters have a plight, I am going to try to understand that, and I'm not going to pass judgment for a protest. If our Hispanic brothers and sisters have that same issue, I am going to stand with them and I'm not going to be insensitive. If our Caucasian brothers and sisters have an issue, then I am going to stand with them if they really feel like they are being wronged. And I'm not talking about flag, kneeling for the flag. I'm talking about legitimate issues. But that's how I am built. That's how the friends that I have are built. But that is not being reciprocated. We're talking about a damn flag when there is injustice going on. And until it happens to you, you will not understand. And I pray that injustice doesn't happen to anybody out there. But that is the selfishness that this America has grown to. Now, we have a checkered history. We have a checkered history. We come from slavery. We come from civil rights injustices. We come from Jim Crow. We come from all of that. But to be in 2017 and to be having these discussions and it seem like we're going backwards and it seems like the country is being divided and people are letting it happen, it's very frustrating. Now, on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. As a Steeler fan, honestly, I understand where Mike Tomlin was coming from. He left it up to the team to be able to determine how they wanted to protest. Half of the group wanted to kneel, the other half wanted to stand. They couldn't get it together in time. So Mike Tomlin said, hey, you guys just stay in the locker room. The coaches, we'll go out there and then we'll get it figured out another time. That was the agreement. Alejandro Villanueva, a former serviceman, someone that I believe served 3 tours in Afghanistan, it was 2 or 3. Due to his overwhelming sense of patriotism, he decided he wanted to stand where everyone could see him in the tunnel while the rest of the team was behind him. It's a tricky situation, fellas. It's not cut and dry. How am I supposed to tell this man that actually was on the front lines fighting for the justices that we, or the freedoms that we're supposed to have in America? How am I supposed to tell him that he's supposed to sit in the locker room with the rest of the team? Now, I understand this is a team sport. Football is the ultimate team sport. So if one member of the team does something, then you would expect the other member of the team to do that. But because he is a serviceman and he knows probably more than a lot of people know what it means to lay your life on the line for this country, I can't necessarily look at him and point a negative finger at him. However, if it were me, I would have been in the tunnel with the rest of the team. But that's just me.
Are you buying that he didn't know, that he thought somebody was coming behind him too, that he was confused? Are you buying that?
I'm not necessarily buying that. I'm not. I think he had it in his mind that he was going to stand in that tunnel and he was going to represent for the anthem. And again, I am in no position to sit here and question this man about what he decided to do. Now, the protest means different things for different people. So, Sean, this is where I disagree with you a little bit when you talk about Jerry Jones and kneeling before. This is where I disagree. The protest, everybody doesn't have to do the same thing.
I agree.
I don't feel like the owners need to kneel and do exactly what Kaepernick did in order to get the point across.
I agree with that.
I don't think that everyone has to do the same thing. So the fact that Jerry Jones did come out and was arm in arm with his players, we understood what it was about. He was representing with his players, and he was basically firing back at Goodell. Like, listen, we're a unified front. Jerry Jones has made it clearly known in the past that he didn't necessarily care about players that weren't going to be standing. He didn't care for it. And he said, hey, you know what? I believe he made a quote, any player that is going to kneel during the national anthem won't be a cowboy or something like that. I don't want to put words in his mouth.
That was a little bit of fake news. That, like,
Yeah,
I mean, that was a bad, I mean, that was misquoted or whatever the case may be. But he he was very clear that he wanted every cowboy standing during the national anthem.
Right. He wanted every cowboy standing. So to me, I am not even asking for owners, or I'm not asking for individuals who aren't African Americans. I'm not even asking them to kneel and protest the same way that Colin Kaepernick would kneel, or the same way that other players around the league would kneel. To me, it's touching when I see players standing up and they have their hand on their brothers that are kneeling. To me, that shows solidarity, and it shows that the diversity in America, it shows that that's real, and it shows that that's how it's supposed to work. You and I may not agree exactly on 100%, but because you're my brother and because I love you, I am going to support you and you're going to support me. Whether that means I stand and it means that you kneel, we're showing a mutual support. So I think the Pittsburgh Steelers, it was a very confusing situation. I know there was a fire chief in Pittsburgh that didn't have some flattering words for Mike Tomlin. I believe he
He
called him
added
an
him to the
N-word.
list. He added him to the list of no good niggers. That's what he
Right,
did.
right, right. And so he ended up being terminated. There were many fans, Steeler fans, that claimed that they wouldn't support the Steelers anymore because of that. And this is getting back to my original point. So you aren't going to watch a football team anymore because you have certain players that are protesting inequality. Because that's really what it is. But again, they're getting caught up in the flag. They think it's a direct disrespect to the flag. When the person that started the protest said that it is not the flag that we are disrespecting. So you can take it how you want to take it, but this is the status of the company and or the country, and it starts with our president that makes these divisive statements, and the rest of the dominoes just fall after these statements happen.
Mm, mm.
Kevin,
Great.
do you mind if I touch on the flag thing real quick?
Absolutely. Yeah, take it away.
Here's what really bothers me. Let's say you want to make it about the flag. Let's say that's what you want to hang your hat on. There's code, federal code, that talks about this is the way the flag should be used. This is the way the flag should be bared.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the things that should not happen with the flag. And many of them are things that the NFL routinely does. There's been flags sewn on jerseys before, and the flag is not to be used as a decorative device. You are not to use the flag and hold it horizontally, but they bring it out on the field, everybody holding it horizontally.
This is good information.
Nobody is boycotting these swimsuit companies that are making American flag swimsuits. Nobody's boycotting the manufacturers of bandanas. No one was boycotting the Dipset when they were wearing bandanas on their heads and rapping. Nobody cared about the flag being misrepresented and misused in every way, shape, or form until it came to happen with African Americans protesting their rights civilly about something that had nothing to do with the flag, that a president wanted to make it about a flag. Other people, good old boys, other individuals, people that don't mind bearing Confederate flags and flags that were literally trying to create a separate America within this country. Nobody had a problem with those things. Furthermore, there's nothing that a 5-time draft dodger can tell me about patriotism at all. Okay? You have 5 opportunities to serve your country in the military, and there's nothing that a 5-time draft dodger can tell me shit about patriotism. Furthermore, I'm willing to listen to somebody who is a 39-year military veteran,
Absolutely.
a 4-star general, Michael Hayden, a director of the CIA, someone who knows a little bit something about why they were fighting and what they were fighting for. I'm not going to marginalize servicemen and women, people that were on the front lines, but I'm going to be very honest here. You are on a need-to-know basis. You follow orders. That's what you do. A lot of times you don't know where you're going, why you're doing it, and what you're fighting and why you're fighting for it, except what you're fed. I'm going to listen to the head of the CIA. I'm going to listen to a 4-star general who has all the intel, who said, I'm siding with Kaepernick. When you have a president that's being divisive and trying to wrap the flag around him as a banner to push their agenda, this is a 4-star general. I'm taking his word over a 5-time draft dodger. That's all I got to say about it.
These are some
Powerful.
strong takes. We're going to get to our next topic here. I just want to quickly, if you voted for Donald Trump, I respect your vote. I do. No matter who you voted for, I respect it because you took advantage of your right as an American citizen.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
If you heard him speak Thursday and you were okay with him using uh, that expletive, you were okay with that, there's a problem with you. And I needed to hear you, if you're a Trump supporter, I needed to hear you denounce the words that he used. I didn't need to hear you say that. I didn't need you to tell me that. Oh, um, I didn't need to hear the fact that
You voted
it's not
wrong.
okay. Yeah, it's not okay to protest. Oh, it's not okay to protest, kneel for the national anthem. I'm not worried about all that. I just needed you to tell me that the language that he used, you weren't down with, and I needed you to be emphatic about it and say that was wrong. What Trump said. I don't accept that. I needed to hear that from you. So, in a lot of cases, we have folks are so dug in backing their candidate that no matter what he does that's wrong, you won't speak up about that. And that's a problem.
That's called no accountability. It's called
Accountability.
no accountability. The three of us, we can't go to our day jobs and do the type of things that the leader of this country has done. And
Right. Right. Did you cut out on us? I think Flo
Yeah,
we can't.
there you go.
I'll keep that. I'll continue that remark. You can't you can't sit here and try to parade yourself, as having these values as Americans or whatever, and side with this kind of divisiveness. You
Right.
can't. Flows back. Go ahead.
Right. Flo, did you have anything extra? Can
No,
you hear it?
no, I simply just wanted to say that none of us can go into a professional environment and spew these divisive type things. Just had a training the other day, as a matter of fact, and it was on equal employment issues, and there's protected categories, and some of the things that the president was saying clearly would have violated those EEO standards at our job. And so he would have been disciplined for what he said. But this is the leader of the country, and he can say those things on a national platform. So,
Well,
next topic.
yeah, yeah. I'll end with this before we go to the next topic. My number one concern with uh, the Colin Kaepernick protest and kneeling for the national anthem was how long he was going to do it. Somebody asked me, they said, how long do you want Colin Kaepernick to protest? This was last year. And I thought about it. I said, you know what? 3 to 4 games would be good. After that, I think he goes too far because not because we don't need the protest anymore, but I wanted him to switch the method up because it gave the opposite side time. He went the full 16 weeks. It gave the opposite side time to come up with something to combat his message and try to convolute it to where we completely lost what the protest was about. We lost what it was about because they said, okay, we're going to talk about the flag. We're going to talk about the disrespect of America. We're going to tie all that together. And that's going to be what combats what Colin Kaepernick is trying to talk about. So I wanted him to just go 3 to 4 weeks, maybe stop the protest. Then this year he has a job so he can continue to get his message across. Remember, all starting quarterbacks, they get a weekly press conference every Wednesday. When they come back from their couple of days off, they get a weekly press conference. They can say whatever the heck they want to say. They can get whatever message they want to get across. And I thought it would be beneficial for Cap to go about 4 weeks on that protest, switch the method up, okay, finish the season. He would have got signed by another team. He would probably be on, maybe Baltimore, maybe even Jacksonville playing, and then he still have this platform to be able to continue his message, but just switching it up without the other side being able to come up with something to deflect what the actual message was. And that's
So you
all
don't
this is.
so you don't think the damage was done after 3 or 4 weeks?
No, I don't believe that, because I think what he could
Okay.
have done was after about 4 weeks, because remember, Obama was still president. So we still had the election to get through. So I thought maybe after
And
about 3 or 4 weeks.
he didn't call Kaepernick a son of a bitch. Is that what you're saying?
No,
Oh.
no, he did. No, he didn't do that. But I
Oh.
thought that, in hindsight, maybe if he switched up the method to avoid that, oh, you're disrespecting the flag, you're disrespecting the military, you're disrespecting the national anthem. Folks were just throwing darts on the board trying to find something to stick. The military didn't stick, the flag didn't stick first time, and the national anthem didn't stick. Nothing stuck until Trump got up Thursday and said what he had to say. Now all of a sudden we have a real, true, honest knockdown, drag out debate that's going to continue. So we'll leave that there, man. That's a good discussion. Let's move on. Of the NCAA, obviously the big news. One of the most decorated coaches that we've seen. I mean, we're talking about a guy that's won national championships. He's coached at the professional level. He goes back down to the collegiate level. Rick Pitino, fired University of Louisville. Let's give you a little bit of the backdrop. Now, Tuesday, the FBI announced that they arrested 10 people, 4 college basketball assistant coaches. Listen to these schools that are in some trouble: University of Arizona, Auburn, obviously Louisville, the University of Miami, Oklahoma State, and USC. There's a probe going on. June Kim, acting U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, announced that this is an ongoing investigation of bribes and other corruption dealing with college basketball and the shoe apparel Adidas. So let's dig into this. I want to start with you, Javon. Rick Pitino, gone, fired from the University of Louisville. Obviously, he had issues a couple of years ago with the brothel, on-campus brothel, and the strippers and prostitutes coming to campus. He had an issue probably about 6 years ago dealing with some infidelity and having a extramarital affair with his equipment manager's wife. What's your takeaway on the firing of Rick Pitino? And then kind of dig in to the ugly underbelly of college athletics when it has to do with money being thrown around to these young men.
So I'll start first with Rick Pitino, one of the most decorated, celebrated coaches in the past century. Rick has been successful everywhere that he's been. He was successful at Providence. This is a guy that took the Providence Friars to the Final Four with one Billy Donovan, who is now head coach of the OKC Thunder, won 2 national championships at Florida.
Good catch.
Rick Pitino was at Kentucky, where he had some extremely talented teams, won a national title. Antoine Walker, Walter McCarty, Tony Delk, just to name a few guys that, and there were others that went to the professional ranks from that team. Went to Louisville, won a national championship there, played in the Big East for a while, which is one of the most brutal conferences that you could play in back when it didn't have just the Catholic schools that it has now. Excellent ball coach. This is an individual that found a way to run an amoeba type zone that really could lock up defenders or lock up players, solid offensive players in the NCAA tournament and in tournament settings. He was a guy that was able to get recruits to come in because he's a magnetic personality. That's Rick Pitino.
Is that why?
Well, apparently there were some other reasons why as well. That's Rick Pitino. That's Ricky Pitino. Then you have the Rick Pitino that had the extramarital stuff. You have the Rick Pitino that claims he didn't know that there was a brothel going on, that there were strippers and escorts being hired for players. And you have a Rick Pitino that is not acknowledging money being funneled to a recruit that didn't even have Louisville on his radar. The recruit wasn't even actively seeking to come to Louisville. Rick gets a call and says that this kid wants to come and sign with Louisville. Doesn't sound right. Doesn't sound right. Listen, Rick, I'm not going to say that you had the greatest character out there. I'm not going to say that you're not human and that you haven't made mistakes. I'm not going to say that you aren't a great basketball coach. A great basketball coach. And you probably will have success somewhere else because somebody's going to hire Rick Pitino. Let's not get that twisted. Someone will hire Rick Pitino.
He's not done?
But he's not done. He's not done. But I will say this, Rick. I will say this. Your luck ran out. You were finally exposed. And they shipped you out of Louisville. Accept what happened like a man. Learn from it. And when you do get that next opportunity, try to be more genuine with people. By all accounts, Rick Pitino was a person that was very hard to deal with, arrogant type demeanor. A lot of his peers felt as if he felt he was better than them and just was described as an overall jerk at times. Here was a guy that was very critical of the former Rutgers coach that was caught verbally abusing his players on camera, but yet Rick Pitino was a guy that was doing the same thing to his players. And he was saying that coach, I don't know what got into him. Well, that's the same thing you do to your players, Rick. So just be more genuine next time. Learn from your mistakes. I'm not passing judgment on you because collegiate sports is a dirty game. And at some point, you were just doing what you needed to do to get recruits. Now, whether that was setting them up with prostitutes, whether that was helping a recruit have money get funneled to his family so that he could wind up at Louisville, a 5-star recruit, by the way, believe the kid's last name was Bowen. If that was the case, you were doing what you had to do to meet the demand of the immense pressure that college coaches and players and professional coaches and athletes are under.
Sean,
Is it right?
Oh, go ahead and finish your thought.
I was going to say, is it right? I'm not here to be the moral authority, but I am here to say that you got caught, Rick. Take it like a man. Learn from it.
Sean, if the NCAA started to allow some of these young men to make money off of their likeness, even in the off season, if they allowed them maybe to do some autograph sessions or maybe to, sell some merchandise on their own and be able to collect the money, do you think we would see this type of corruption in college athletics?
I think the corruption would just be different. I don't think it would stop the corruption. I think anytime that there's billions of dollars being changing hands, there's going to be corruption. I don't care if it's boxing. I don't care if it's NC2A. I don't care if it's the presidential office. I don't care if it's a big cash cow church. Anytime that there's that much money getting thrown around, there's going to be corruption. I mean, it's as simple as that. I think it would slow it down. I think it would hinder it. I think the methodology would have to change. They'd have to regroup, change their game plan, and find another scheme, or find another way to make money and take advantage of these athletes. But I'm not quite as understanding as Javon is of Rick Pitino, and like, hey, it's it's a lot of pressure out there, and you got to kind of do what you got to do to stay ahead of the game. And if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, and all of this cliche stuff I've heard. These are kids. These are kids that when they're together with families and they're deciding, where am I entrusting my child to go? Who am I giving my child to for the next several years? I guarantee you they weren't signing up to say, hey, I want my kids sleeping with prostitutes and escorts. Right. I want them taking illegal money that could possibly get them out of the NC2A and hurt their chances of being drafted at all, of being seen, of having a platform, having to change schools or whatever the case. I guarantee that's not what any of these parents entrusted when they let them happen. Now, these parents and these families that were in on it, when we're reading some of these reports, the FBI reports, they're referring to coach number 2, and they're referring to Rick Pitino, and this person having the gall to get on TV and say, I didn't know. I mean, I'll do whatever it takes to cooperate. This was happening underneath my nose. I'm dumbfounded. I'm shocked. I can't believe this kind of stuff is going on, and I'll do whatever it takes to cooperate. I bet you will. I bet you will, coach number 2. You know why? Because your name is in federal reports. That's why. That's why you're going to do, because you don't have a choice but to cooperate. Okay? You're going to be subpoenaed is what you're going to do. You're going to do whatever and say whatever they want you to say, and you're going to start singing pretty quick here too. And a lot of other people are going to be exposed. And this whole underbelly, everybody working in concert to manipulate children, from financial advisors to athletic companies to tailors to shoe companies, all of them working in concert to manipulate and exploit children. You're no better than these people that are bringing people in, kids from out of country, and sex slaves and all of that kind of stuff, exploiting people for money. This is the worst part about it. You're sitting here and you have no accountability. Going back to that, you're sitting here, I didn't know. Really? Because they got you wiretapped, homie. They got you on the phone. They got you on the phone talking about $100,000 changing hands, and you making sure that money goes over there, gets to that family, to that recruit that didn't even want to come there. I cannot wait.
Sean, in fairness to those individuals that have participated in the funneling of money to families, I'm going to say I think it's a little extreme to say that they're the same as sex traffickers. I think that's a little extreme. Now, I mean,
exploitation,
sex traffickers,
for money.
Listen. The people that are victims of sex trafficking, their parents don't get kicked back some of the money that's made off of their.
That's not true. That's not true. Some of these parents are getting paid for them to take their kid out of the country, out of these third world countries. That's not true.
Okay, I'm talking about a kid that gets kidnapped for purposes of sex trafficking.
That's some of them.
A check isn't showing up to their parent every month saying thank you for the use of services of your son or daughter. I just want to make that clear distinguishment as we talk about whether or not these. I get your point. I understand what you're saying, but some of these parents, $150K is a lot of money to receive.
Maybe I should have said indentured.
150K is a lot of money to receive.
Maybe I should have said indentured servitude.
I think that would have been better.
Yeah, maybe indentured servitude. I'm sorry. I'll step away from slavery. Sorry.
Let's put a.
He's on fire.
Yeah,
the man is on fire tonight.
He's on fire tonight. We'll put a bow on this and get to our next topic. I do want to say this. I'm paging John Calipari, I'm paging you. I'm paging Mike Krzyzewski. I'm paging you, Coach K. Your one and done factory is about to end. This is great news for the NCAA. This finding by the FBI, this 2-year investigation, is going to be the best thing that's happened to the NCAA in a long time. And also, it's going to make you change, John Calipari, because when the next NBA collective bargaining agreement comes, kids will now be able to go from high school straight to the NBA. There's going to be no more one and done. They're going to completely reshape the entire collegiate athletic model because of this. And John Calipari, you're going to have to do things a little bit differently now. You are going to have to recruit those 2- and 3-star kids who are going to stay there for 3 to 4 years, because the one and done factory will be ending the next agreement. I don't know when that is. I think it's a couple of years down the line, but teams are going to have to adjust the way that they recruit, in particular college basketball. I know college football, the kids got to stay. They got to be there till they're age 21. So obviously, we're not going to have a situation where they're going to be able to change the model. But college basketball will be changing very soon, and I think it's for the better. It's time to let these guys. It's time to go back to yesteryear. These guys that are ready for the NBA, let them go. Don't let them waste time at the collegiate level, because all they're going to do is attend class until February. That's all they have to do to be eligible. Attend class until February. They take a month off from classes, participate in March Madness, and then they're out. They're gone. They're not even on campus for a full 2 semesters. They're just there to play basketball until February. Classes are over. They play March Madness and they get out. It's time to let these kids go ahead and start making money directly out of high school. So let's segue to the NBA. We had some big time news in the NBA. I got to get your takes on these guys. First thing, the Carmelo Anthony experience in New York City has finally come to a close. He was traded to the Oklahoma City Thunder for who was he traded for? McDermott and Enes Kanter and Doug McDermott. So Carmelo comes over, teams up with Paul George. We know that he was traded in the summer to OKC and to team up with Russell Westbrook. So now we have a 3-headed monster, guys. Where do you put OKC in the pecking order of the West? And we're always going to frame this question this way. How close are they to Golden State? We'll start with you, Javon. OKC, Russ Westbrook, Carmelo, Paul George. How close are they, and what is the pecking order for you?
So I'll start out by saying that Golden State is still the clear favorite, and not just the Western Conference, but all of the NBA. And
so clear favorite.
Yeah, clearly when you have 3 of the best players, 3 of the top 10, 15 players in the world on one team, and then you have a guy like Draymond Green, who is a do-it-all player, and then you have that bench, and you have this the requisite supporting players that can allow the superstars to do what they do. I think it's going to be tough to beat them. However, I do think OKC has stepped into that number 2 or 3 spot, depending on how San Antonio does. Every time we want to count San Antonio out, all they do is come back and win 55, 60 games.
Mm-hmm.
And they're always much better than what people think they're going to be. So I'll leave San Antonio at the number 2 spot for now. But I think OKC has forged ahead of the Houston Rockets by virtue of bringing over Carmelo Anthony. And, the main reason I'm going to say that is this. I've been a critic of Carmelo's game, particularly on the defensive end. Offensively, I think he's one of the most talented isolation scorers that we have in the league. I think he can do everything. He can post up, he can shoot, he can get to the basket. Scoring-wise, Carmelo still has 4 or 5 years of at least 25 points. I think so. Of 24, 25 points in his future. I believe here's where I believe coming to
He's
OKC
33.
is gonna here's where I think coming to OKC is gonna help him. In New York and wherever Carmelo has been, Carmelo has always been the primary scorer and he's always been the best player. When has Carmelo played with players the caliber of Russell Westbrook and Paul George before? When has that happened? You can't think about when that's happened in the NBA season. The only time it's happened has been in the Olympics. And Carmelo has been more than a pleasant surprise on those Olympic teams. He was a guy that could provide scoring punch. He was a guy that did play defense in spurts. And he was a leader amongst a roster full of all-stars. So I think now that Carmelo comes over to OKC, I think it's going to free up some of that pressure that's on Russell Westbrook's shoulders. I think Russell Westbrook, and this is what I love about him, it's no secret that he's my favorite player. I love the fact that he has a Warriors mentality, and I love the fact that he has a never say die mentality. But we could see last season, in the midst of him trying to prove that he didn't need Kevin Durant, we saw Russell Westbrook wear down in that Houston Rockets series. He was able to have those guys with the lead in most of those games going into the fourth quarter. He just couldn't get them over the hump because it was just him by himself, let's be honest. But now that he has help from proven scorers and proven veterans, Paul George and Carmelo Anthony, I think those three are going to work together well. I think Russ is going to feel a sense of being able to defer, similar to what he did with Kevin Durant. A little bit more mature basketball-wise than he was when he had Kevin Durant. So I think the OKC Thunder are poised to get a top 2 or 3 seed. I do like them better than the Houston Rockets. And I'll tell you, for this reason and this reason alone, the Houston Rockets are a great regular season team. They're a team that may be second to the Warriors in scoring. They may even beat the Warriors in scoring. But they won't be able to get the defensive stops in the playoffs. Period, point blank. I don't care if you bring over Chris Paul. Patrick Beverley was a great defensive player. Chris Paul is a great defensive player, but I don't think he's any better than Patrick Beverley. Offensively, he gives you a little bit more, and he has better floor generalship. But I don't think that
a better haircut.
Chris Paul is going to get you. I don't think he's going to get you over the hump. So right. Houston, great regular season team. James Harden, great player. I like CP3 and I like James Harden, but they won't be able to play the necessary defense in the playoffs. I think OKC, just by virtue of Andre Roberson, Russell Westbrook, and Paul George on the defensive end, I think those three are better than anybody that the Rockets have. So I think OKC will be second or third in the West. Probably won't be enough to beat the Warriors, but when you have 3 big-time players like that, remember, if you can keep the game close, Carmelo can hit big shots. Jury's still out on whether Paul George can hit a big shot or not, but Westbrook can hit big shots as well. So number 2 or 3 for me, for OKC.
Sean, same question. Melo to OKC. Where do you have him in the pecking order of the West? And can they be a legitimate threat to the Golden State Warriors?
I have them as number 3 in the Western Conference. I'm definitely not counting out the Spurs by any stretch of the imagination. As long as they have Greg Popovich as a coach, as long as they have that system, and as long as they have MVP caliber player in Kawhi Leonard, widely considered the best 2-way player in the league, reigning defensive player of the year. I do not think that OKC can supplant San Antonio because they don't have the bench players. They have a very good starting 5. I like Adams at center. I like Russ at the 1. I like Carmelo moving to the 4. I thought this was going to be a natural progression for him as he got older and maybe lost a little bit of his explosiveness. Still way more explosive than any of the 4s out there. You know, he is one of the best offensive players I've ever seen in isolation basketball. He has every conceivable move, jab step, pull-up jumper, dribble one time, pull up on you. Strong, very strong inside, can finish with either hand, crafty, just a beautiful offensive basketball player. I love Paul George as a two-way player. He's good defensively. He's strong. He's long. He's athletic. You know, he can finish around the rim. His jump shot is much improved. He's extended his range. I think they're going to be very exciting. I think they're going to make a lot of noise. I think they're going to be on TV a lot. But there is no way that none of the teams on the Western Conference or any of the NBA has really closed ground on the Warriors. It's scary that you think last year when they get Kevin Durant, like, oh my God, they can't get any better. They actually did. I think getting Nick Young, having him off the bench, having an explosive scorer off the bench, a guy that can probably score 16 points a game for the Warriors is huge. And they have everybody else under contract and intact. I don't see them closing any ground on the Warriors. I don't see the Rockets. I do see them above the Rockets. Too many strip clubs in James Harden's reach. He's not getting. He's got too many long nights, man. Too much money to trick off. They're not getting past Oklahoma City, but Oklahoma City's not getting past San Antonio or Golden State.
And I'm going with OKC moving to the 2 seed in the West. I do think that they can really give Golden State a good series. I would still pick the Warriors in 6 or 7 games. It won't be utter domination, but nowadays, when you have players as gifted as a Russ Westbrook, Paul George, and a Carmelo Anthony, you really don't need a bench anymore. I mean, Golden State won the championship last year without a bench. All they did was just toggle. They toggled their I mean, they got 4 All-Stars, so they just toggled them a little bit. They kept 2 on the floor at all times. And I think that's something that Billy Donovan might be able to do with OKC is keep at least 2 of those guys on the floor at the same time while you're resting the others. I really don't even see, you really don't need a bench like that, especially in the playoffs, maybe throughout the season. But once you get to the playoffs, everybody
shorten your rotations anyway.
Rotation. Yeah. But I like OKC to get the 2 seed. Go ahead.
I hope Popovich is watching this, Kevin.
Yeah, he probably isn't number 1. Number 2, if he was, he probably doesn't give a damn. But no, I mean, the Spurs are always going to be there. And heck, they might even be the 2 seed. But I still think in a matchup with OKC and the Spurs, I would pick OKC in that matchup. Let's move on. Eastern Conference. More news today. DWade signs with the Cleveland Cavaliers to play with his best friend. Yesterday it happened. And obviously DWade, LeBron James, great friends. They teamed up together down in South Beach, won some championships down there. And then LeBron goes back to Cleveland. But obviously there was a sentiment out there, and a lot of folks thought by the time their careers were over that they would team up once again, whether it be in Cleveland or whether it be down in Miami, whatever the case may be. A lot of folks thought that might happen. So DWade, contract is bought out by the Chicago Bulls. He moves on to Cleveland, team up with the Cavs. Let me start with you, Sean. Where does this put the Cleveland Cavaliers in turn, not just getting to the finals, but matching up with a team like Golden State? Is this a team that can win the championship this year with the addition of DWade?
Um, I don't know if I'm ready to say that it wins them a championship against the Golden State Warriors. It You're talking about a lot of great players, Hall of Fame players in their prime. Steph Curry is going to be a Hall of Famer.
Right.
Kevin Durant's going to be a Hall of Famer. The verdict is still, out on Klay Thompson. Still a little early in his career, but he's going to go down as one of the most prolific shooters. And he may not have the requisite numbers because of the players he plays with. Um, and then Draymond Green. I'm sorry, Draymond Green was Defensive Player of the Year. I misspoke earlier when I said that about Kawhi Leonard. You're talking about three possible Hall of Famers on the same team in an absolutely amazing system with great teamwork, great front office. It's just rare that all of those things happen at the same time. A great front office, great players, unselfish players, people that genuinely like each other. There's obviously been some turmoil in Cleveland that's been well documented. Some players unhappy, some people saying, hey, they wish it would have stayed, LeBron leaving and be Kyrie's team. There's been some grumblings about things like that. Obviously, DWade being a future Hall of Famer, on paper, it looks great. I heard there were some guarantees about that was contingent upon him coming there and taking the veteran minimum, that he was going to be a starter. I'm not sure I like him as a starter at this point in his career, even though he still averaged 18 a game last year, which is only 5 off of his career scoring average. I like J.R. Smith. One of the staples of the Cleveland Cavaliers and the reasons they've been so successful over the past several years is how prolific they are at the three-point range. They had over 1,000 three-pointers last year. I think they led the league in three-pointers. J.R. Smith is part of that. I like J.R. Smith and his quick trigger with LeBron being able to find shooters. I like DWade coming off the bench with a Kyle Korver as a playmaker, with a Kyle Korver, a Jeff Green, and some of the other pieces they have, Crowder. They have a very, very, very deep team. I think they have a deeper team than they had last year. And that's why I think they're able to compete for a championship again. I think they're the clear-cut favorites in the Eastern Conference, even though you have an improved Washington and yet to be proven Boston with some really, really great prospects in addition to a superstar and possible superstar. But
you do realize they were the number 1 seed last year, right? You say yet to be proven.
But they have 11 new players, Javon. 11. And the DNA, the heart and soul
Still
of that
the same
team,
organization.
The heart and soul of that team left. He's on the Cavaliers now. Okay, so
with the bad hip, but
their heart and soul was Isaiah Thomas. Okay, Mr. Fourth Quarter, the best fourth quarter player in basketball last year, and he is now a Cleveland Cavalier. So they have a lot of turnover. They still have a great coach. They have a top 5 or top 3 point guard with Kyrie Irving. Gordon Hayward is an outstanding player. Tatum is going to be amazing. I love Jaylen Brown. They're going to be a second or third seed. There's no doubt about it. But I think Cleveland goes to their LeBron goes to his 8th straight final, and I don't know if I'm ready to say they can beat the Golden State Warriors yet, but I do think they have the personnel, and if they play correctly, they give themselves a chance, and that's all you can ask.
Javon, DWade to the Cavs. Give me your thoughts. Do you think that gets them back to the finals, or does Boston make that jump and push the Cavs with Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward and those boys?
I don't think we can deny what Sean just said about how deep that Cleveland roster is. I think they have done a great job in this offseason of adding to that depth, bringing in Jay Crowder, bringing in D Rose, and bringing in DWade. Now, with those two, you're going to get 4 of the worst 4 of the worst knees that's available in in the NBA. I'm just being honest.
Oh gosh.
I'm just being honest. You're going to get 4 of the worst knees available in the NBA.
Both of those
But when
guys
you take a
averaged
look at
18 a
it,
game last year, Javon.
but again, when you take a look at having LeBron James with Dwayne Wade before and won or winning multiple championships with Dwayne Wade, clearly those two have a chemistry. They're very good friends off the court, and they play well together on the court. I don't know about Dwayne Wade starting. I think it's a little disrespectful to J.R. Smith
Mm-hmm.
if you bring Dwayne Wade in. J.R. Smith was grinding with LeBron these past couple years.
Absolutely.
J.R. Smith was a guy that made huge shots
Huge.
more times than not. More times than not in the playoffs, J.R. Smith made huge shots for them. Times when LeBron wasn't making shots and when Kevin Love wasn't making shots, J.R. Smith was making big shots. So I think J.R. Smith has earned the right to remain the starter. If I were bringing DWade in, I would want to bring him off the bench anyway for purposes
Mm-hmm.
of preserving his knees.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they'll work that out. They'll work that out. But I think the Cleveland Cavaliers are right where they always are. Listen, anytime you have that man named LeBron James, you always have an opportunity to not only win the East. History has shown us that he's gone to the finals and for 7 straight years. And I wouldn't be surprised if they went to the finals again for an 8th straight year due to that added depth and the fact that I think LeBron might have a little chip on his shoulder with the way things ended with Kyrie. But I think that Kyrie has a heavier chip on his shoulder with the way things ended with the Cavs and LeBron. And I really like that talent that they have over there in Boston. Now, granted, I love Isaiah Thomas. I think Isaiah Thomas has gotten a raw deal ever since he's been in the NBA. For whatever reason, 8'5'9" has been held against him time and time again. And it's sickening, fellas. It really is sickening. Now, clearly, if you're Danny Ainge, you got to do something. If you have an opportunity to make your team better with a healthier player, and Kyrie Irving, a guy that is one of the top 7 or 8 players in the world, at that trade. You got to make that move happen. So I understand why he did it, but I really like the young pieces. I like Gordon Hayward
Now,
coming over, playing
now,
that small forward position. I love Jaylen Brown's development in the summer league and as well as his development at the end of last year. And I really like the rookie, Jason Tatum, coming in. This is a guy that can score the ball well on the NBA level. But as Sean said, they're still unproven. 11 new players on that roster. So they're going to have to prove themselves. But if there's one thing that we talked about, and this was during some of our earlier shows, we talked about the fact that the Cleveland Cavaliers don't care about the regular season. And it's a fact. That's a fact. LeBron has all but said it. He doesn't care about the regular season. It's all about turning it on and locking in, as he would say, in the postseason. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Cavs finish second in the East again. I wouldn't. And the Celtics finish first. So, but I would say that the Cavaliers are slightly my favorite in the East. I think, again, because LeBron James is the best player out of the 2 teams, and he's still one of the top 2-3 players in the world. I don't know if he's the best anymore. I got to be honest about that. But being Kevin Durant. I mean, Kevin Durant staked his claim. We all saw it. We all saw Kevin Durant.
Has he won a ring? Has he won 1 ring?
ooh, man.
Yeah. But it's not about what you've done prior. It's about what you're doing now.
Come on, man.
What did LeBron do in the finals? He averaged a triple-double.
Come on.
In a loss. He averaged a triple-double in a loss. Kevin Durant.
Okay. And look who they lost to.
Yeah, look who they lost
Sean.
to. Come
Look who they
on.
lost to.
Sean, Kevin Durant was the best player in that series. He left the biggest imprint on that series. I don't care what LeBron's stats were. Kevin Durant made the biggest plays. He had the most pressure on him, and he had the most to prove.
He had an outstanding series. There's no doubt about it. He was the Lamborghini was better than the Ferrari in that series. Okay.
Like I said.
Okay.
Like I said I don't know if LeBron is still the best player in the world. I didn't say that definitively he wasn't the best player.
Fair enough.
I said he's still guaranteed to be top 2 or 3. I don't know if he's the best in the world. And I think Kevin Durant, I think his ascension over this past year or so merits him to be in that conversation.
And I thought he should have been in that conversation anyway. I don't think Kevin Durant got a lot better last year. I think Kevin Durant's been this good. I think he played on a team where those talents were able to be seen with other great players. I've always thought Kevin Durant was right there. It's one of the best top 3 players in the league year in, year out.
And this is where we disagree, because he played on a team the year before that had the Golden State Warriors down 3-1.
He did. You
know, this is a guy
and he shot him out of the game. And he shot him out of the game.
My point exactly. So over the past year or so, Kevin Durant has not only proven that he was capable of being a great regular season player and being a great first and second round player, but in the finals, when the stage was the biggest, when the pressure was the most, we saw the stories that came out about Kevin Durant and how it absolutely tore him apart, his decision. And he was second guessing whether it was the right decision. So knowing what we know now, all the more impressive that Kevin Durant got that championship. And
Steph Curry didn't go crazy in some of those games.
I'm not saying that. It's a team effort at the end of the day. It's a team effort. But what do you remember about Game 3?
Kevin Durant.
Do you remember shots that Steph Curry made? Do you remember shots that Steph Curry made?
Kevin Durant was the best player. Kevin Durant was clearly the Finals MVP. Kevin Durant was the best player in those finals.
So what are we arguing? What are we arguing about?
We're arguing about.
I'm not saying anything that you don't agree with.
What Sean is saying is that you can't anoint off of one NBA Finals performance.
No, that's all I'm saying.
Anoint Kevin Durant as the best player. There's a lot of people doing that.
That's all I'm saying.
Now,
I said, let's be clear about what I said.
Okay.
I said, I don't know if he's still the best player in the world. I said that about LeBron James.
Fair enough.
I didn't say definitively that Kevin Durant was the #1 player in the world, fellas. Let's make sure that we take what I'm saying from perspective. That's all I ask.
If you swap teams, Kevin Durant doesn't on Cavaliers doesn't beat Golden State either.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Oh man, this was a terrific show. We're gonna close it out right now. I do believe Cleveland, even before the DWade signing, I thought Cleveland was still going to get back to the finals and face Golden State. I think DWade gives them an added dimension. Probably will only play about 20 to 25 minutes throughout the regular season. I think when they get to the playoffs, I think his minutes will go up 30 to 35 minutes once they get to the playoffs, if they can get him there healthy. He's a walking 18 to 20 point per game guy. I mean, any way you want it, he's just a guy that's going to put up numbers. He's just a scorer, has a scorer's mentality. So I think we'll have another Golden State Warrior, Cleveland Cavalier finals. It's going to be really, really exciting, and I can't wait. Right now, it is time to place somebody firmly on the bench. I don't even have to, because the University of Louisville already took care of that for us. Rick Pitino, you're on the bench. Somewhere throughout your illustrious career, you lost the passion to mold and cultivate a young man into a professional. Once you lost that passion to be a leader, once you lost that passion to mold a young boy who comes into your system, and by the time he graduates or by the time he leaves, once you lost your passion to turn him into a better individual, it was time for you to go. Obviously, we know about your past transgressions. And your past transgressions, I'm not necessarily upset at you about that. But what I'm upset about you is that you're not able to admit, stand in front of the cameras, admit the mistakes that you've made instead of cowarding out, refusing to do a press conference. Anytime you've gotten yourself into trouble, you refuse to do a press conference. All three of us guys are fathers to beautiful young children. And I hope that we're all teaching them that when you do make a mistake, you're able to own up to it and just say, yes, I made that mistake. I made that error. I promise I won't ever do it again. And I'm going to be better for it. That's something we didn't see out of you, Rick Pitino. So I hope we never have to see you again. I'm going to put you into the category of that guy that used to coach up in Bloomington, Indiana. Remember, I'm never going to say that guy's name again. You're firmly placed on the bench. So long. Thank you guys for joining us tonight off the bench. This is live now. We go live every Thursday evening, 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 Eastern time. We hope to see you next week. Have a blessed week.